Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the RotoWire #After Dark UCL show. My name is Jack Burkart. You can find me on Twitter at Jack Burkart. I'm joined as usual by my colleague and good friend Ryan Belongia. We're here to talk about the Tuesday UCL slate. We have a great banner for the show. What's the thumbnail? Us at the Brewer game. Ryan, I'm looking forward to seeing you next week. I have spring break. I'm swinging by Wisconsin for a bit. We have a nice dinner planned. But I told you backstage, given how UCL has gone for me lately, we might have to pivot to Chili's. I hope you've been doing a little bit better, Ryan, but it's been tough sledding on these two gamers lately.
Yeah, I took a tough beat over the weekend. But yeah, at least I broke my Champions League losing streak last Wednesday. So at least something positive. I remember talking about losing 7 straight slates, but we had a good Champions League last week. Hopefully can continue that this week. Or yeah, you and I might have to maybe go to Chili's instead. But I don't know. I'll let you break it down first.
Yeah. So looking at today's slate, well, Ryan, one thing I actually wanted to discuss is these contests for 2-game UCL slates. I'm kind of going a little hard and they're very volatile. And one observation I'm having, just, speaking how to approach the game is on a 2-game UCL slate and the pricing is soft like today, a lot of people are going to be, most people, almost everyone's going to be on good plays and few people are going to be making mistakes. So I think one thing that I've been reflecting on is, I took some big L's. I got a little bit unlucky. Maybe I played a little bad even last week in UCL, but it would be if I was, 2xing my usual entries in Showdown, which I know is volatile. I'm I can't go that hard in Showdown. It's so random. 2 games have a lot of the same dynamics, Ryan. Even there's guardrails up that might prevent our opponents from making mistakes. It's not you have to play 1 goal. You have to play 2 defenders. So I don't know, how do you approach the volatility of 2 gamers? Do you just deal with it? I mean, this is your life.
No,
this is your job,
yeah, it's disheartening when you put it like that because it's true. And we end up playing big volume because the contests are bigger and across the board.
And it's UCL. We got to play big volume.
It's UCL, right? And across the board in soccer, there's fewer spots to make money these days, and contests getting smaller, and so you just take every chance you get. At least I do. But you're right; these 2-game slates, especially the ones that City's on, and other ones where we have big favorites. It's quasi showdowns for sure, which are tons of variance. And, like you said, it's harder to make mistakes for other people. So, yeah, you can't really expect the results to be consistent or, it's tough to have too much confidence with so much variance. But, yeah, I don't know. What are you going to do? I guess maybe the point you're making is you got to make some bold moves sometimes, and would have paid off to do that throughout the season, probably in the future. But yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, I think you're looking at something like a 250 entry King of the Pitch ticket. I haven't decided if I'll enter or not, but if I do, I'll probably just make a very brave stand. I mean, that's a winner take all, and all the ownership's really going to be condensed on very good plays. So I think it's just worthwhile to be really mindful of the type of structure you're looking at. I feel like it's classic. It's play the best plays, because on 4-game slates, our opponents make more mistakes. But on a 2-gamer, you just might have to embrace some showdown type of elements. Just one thing that I'm thinking about, at least. But that's just echoing a lot of what you said, Ryan. Let's dig into the slate that we're looking at. We have Arsenal as big home favorites against Porto, 79% win odds per our clean sheet, and a pretty high 2.33 implied goal total. Porto only has a 0.7 goal total. Ryan, I pulled this stat last week while perusing Reddit, but in the game against Arsenal at Porto in the reverse fixture where they won 1-0, the ball was in play for 52% of regular time, and that has been the average for Porto this season in the Portuguese league. So very negative game. Yeah, a lot of dark arts. Maybe some of that negativity should have been expected in the previous leg, especially with Porto going home, but it's something that everyone's going to be well aware of. That said, Arsenal are down 1-0. It's going to be all hands on deck. Adam was joking, Declan Rice forward. Yeah, Ryan's repping him in his thumbnail right now. And yeah, it's going to be a good spot for lots of Arsenal players, and they're not too expensive to play. So I'll let you break that down. I mean, Porto, they don't want to play an actual game. So, maybe play one of their pieces if you want to feel like watermelon brained. I'm just not really seeing it, Ryan. And then the other pretty interesting fixture with a close implied goal total is Barcelona at home against Napoli. Barcelona are about even money to win straight up, and they have a 1.8 implied goal total. That's only half a goal behind Arsenal at 2-game slate. So I found that interesting. I think Napoli are really cheap, Ryan, and on these 2 gamers, I love the cheap guys on the slight underdog. I mean, it just goes the other way. And I think that's an angle that could be quite profitable. You have like a $5,800 Victor Osimhen, but it's a great spot for Barcelona as well. So we expect them to do well. I don't know, Ryan. So when you were opening up the slate, what stood out to you? Pricing is not that harsh to me.
Yeah, pricing's pretty soft, but just like as a whole, I noticed that if you play like, I don't want to. I guess we'll wait until we get to defense, but yeah, just break down the games. Arsenal, yeah, I think biggest spot in years for Arsenal. Arteta talked about it. The atmosphere is going to be crazy, loud. He said we're going to see something special. I tend to believe him. But yeah, like nervous. There could be. I'm nervous. I'm sure the players are nervous with what's happened in the Champions League recently and in some of these spots that they've had. So that game in general, yeah, like you really don't want to play any Porto players. They're not going to have much, at least until Arsenal score a couple goals. I mean, if Arsenal score a couple first half goals, then it can get nervy, and then these Porto guys might be okay. But yeah, it looks like Napoli players would be, the underdog you would want, or the third team you would want instead of Porto. Yeah, I think it's just going to be a barrage from Arsenal until they score 2 goals. Could get nervy after that, and then yeah, that other game, Barca was surprised to see them sort of dominate Napoli last time for the most part. I thought that game would be more even in Italy, but Barca had most of the ball, most of the best chances, created a lot of chances, had a lot of floor points. But yeah, I think that game's more likely to be back and forth. I guess the thing that I was going to say at the start was just trying to play all the best plays. I felt, pricing was sort of soft, but if you played both Saka and Cancelo, who's the best defender, then it's at least somewhat tricky. If you fade one of them, you can just make any lineup you want to. But I found playing both of them, you at least have to make maybe one concession somewhere. But it does look like kind of a straightforward slate in terms of, cash games, optimal, play the best plays.
Yeah, I agree with you, at least in what price construction that you're going to be working with. I think it's going to be straightforward how people spend their money. I have a lineup in right now with Cancelo and Saka, and I have to punt at second D and util. I have to play a cheap goalkeeper. I still think it's a pretty good lineup, though. And it does depend what you do with the other spots. And while it's a straightforward construction, Ryan, I think the pricing has offered us some dilemmas. I mean, look, let's just talk about cash games. So we're going to play Bukayo Saka in cash games. It's not like that one slate where he was 12K and still scored a brace anyway. Like 10.4K is very affordable, and it's such a good spot. So you slot him in, but then maybe what are you looking at for the other spot? If Kai Havertz starts as a center forward at 7,100, that could at least be considered. And then you compare him maybe to someone like Kvicha Kvaratskhelia. So I'll just go with KK so I don't butcher that name, who's only 7,400 and is taking a lot of set pieces. It depends on the lineup. So if Raspadori starts with Napoli, then KK is not as good a play. But, if it's this lineup, I think KK is a pretty good play, even as an underdog in a game that I expect to be back and forth. So that might be a small decision. Or maybe you want to spend down to beef up some of the other spots. Do you want to play Trossard or Gundogan? I probably want to play Gundogan, but Trossard seems interesting. And should I get up to Trossard in a midfield spot or get up to Odegaard, or do I play Declan Rice at 6,400? Is Declan Rice going to be forward enough to make himself worthwhile? So I do think there's enough decisions that I think will make a difference on this one. I don't know. It's like sort of like 2v2 players. It's within the same construction. Do you agree with that, or maybe a little more clear to you?
I'd like to not have to punt the flex, but like you said, if you play Cancelo, you have to punt flex. So that's sort of what I was thinking about. Is that lineup going to have enough upside? That was one of my first questions. Breaking down forward, I think I might favor Yamal over
Oh,
KK,
7,000, right?
but
7,100
I
for Yamal.
guess
Yeah.
that's up for debate.
No, I missed. That's probably Yamal is better than KK. They're both going to be
It is,
splitting set pieces and playing at home.
yeah, yeah, obviously that can go, like if Lewandowski scores early and Napoli have to chase, then maybe it goes the other way. But yeah, in general, with Barca's injuries, and feel pretty good about Yamal playing most of the game, and he's got a nice floor from open play. But yeah, Havertz, we'll have to wait and see on the Arsenal lineup. Seen some things that maybe Jesus could be back at center forward, especially with them needing multiple goals. But I don't know. I kind of hope it's this lineup that they rolled out over the weekend. I really like Havertz playing in the number 9, at least for now. Just been in great form. The Havertz haters have been coping pretty hard over the past month or so. That's been great to see, to be honest. I think last time on the pod, I said Havertz was as likely as any Arsenal player to score from open play. He didn't score against Porto, but he scored in the 3 games since then. Scored a massive goal over the weekend. Probably going to be out there for 90 minutes with Martinelli out. He might not be set. He probably won't be center forward for 90 minutes, but still, 7,100 is a good price. The cheapest Arsenal attacker.
Yeah, I mean, it looks tempting. And if players want to approach this in a 2-gamer by just stacking Arsenal pieces and just saying it's going to be full barrage the entire game, I don't quite blame them. But it is only a 1-goal lead, and you do mention that the game could get nervy if Arsenal score too quickly. It's not like then Porto are actually going to have to try, and even though they don't want to do that, things could get a little screwy. It's not like obvious that Arsenal will have 80% possession, just be laying siege the whole time. That might be the game script only for like a third of the game. Depends how quickly they score, and that's something to think about. Probably more so in tournaments, but also in cash games. But let's keep on digging into forward. We've already kind of buried the lead. I mean, as far as optimal construction, I think Bukayo Saka is going to be optimal as a forward. You want to pay up for him at the forward position. And then you're probably looking at the low 7,000s. I think if I was playing head-to-heads and anyone played Kai Havertz, Yamal, or KK, I would think that I'd hope they made a bigger mistake elsewhere in the lineup. Like, I don't think there's going to be too much separating them. But I would prefer Yamal just taking set pieces at home as a favorite. That's usually the heuristically correct thing to do. And unless I look into it more, I don't plan on changing that. But Ryan, with respect to tournaments, there's cheap options to play. Giacomo Raspadori, he started, I think, recently, and he took set pieces. We don't expect him to start, but at 5,900, that would be an interesting tournament option. Victor Osimhen is plus 210 to score at 5,800. I mean, when is Victor Osimhen ever this cheap? And it's a reasonable spot. And then you have, Francisco Conceição, 4,600. If you play a lot of Arsenal guys, they score too early. Maybe you run it back with a Porto player. I really don't want to do that, but that seems justifiable as well. It seems like the cheap guys, that might be a way to beef up your utility slot, Ryan. I don't know. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm just not going to play any Porto guys. Just as an Arsenal fan, somewhat of what I want to happen and also what I think is going to happen. It's arguably that Arsenal has the best defense in the world. And just like, yeah, if they don't score like a bunch of early goals, and if it's just Arsenal chasing into the second half, there's going to be no floor for the Porto guys. They'll get a good chance or two, especially if Arsenal are pushing, but probably not the route that I'm going to go. I do like Osimhen 5,800. You're right, like that's just too cheap. I'm not sure how great the floors on the Napoli guys are going to be either, but that doesn't really matter for Osimhen. That's kind of why I like Osimhen more. He takes pens and he can just score out of nothing. Clearly the most likely on Napoli to score. I'm just looking at this guy's question in the chat about two separate showdown. I was more thinking like, where is the best place to fill the third team requirement? Or like, where do you lose the most points or gain the most points? That's kind of like how you should be thinking of it. That's kind of why I didn't want to like punt the flex. You feel like goalie, like you say Arsenal goalie, and I'm thinking like this is like kind of an Ederson situation where Raya's got like a 12-point ceiling in a lot of cases, and the Porto keeper for 2K cheaper, is going to score 8 points a lot of times, even if he gets scored on a couple times. So, yeah, I don't know. That's something that I would be thinking about. I don't know. I didn't really answer the question, but that's how I would think about the question.
Yeah, I mean, Matt is asking, I have it pulled up on YouTube, but if you're listening to the audio, what's like the two separate showdown lineup play if you're just trying to predict both scripts? And Matt's proposing, okay, maybe Arsenal goalie, two defender, and then just get the one forward and then hope it shoots out in the rest. Not unreasonable, especially with Arsenal center backs somewhat cheap, I think. But
not unreasonable, no, because the other side is, as Adam has said a couple times, sometimes Arsenal aren't the best team to play against or to play the opposing keeper against. I do think this is a more unique situation. But even still, if Arsenal do score a couple goals early-ish, then yeah, they're probably not going to be pushing all out to score anymore, and Costa won't have a good game. So yeah, you got to think of a specific script and then make the lineup to fit that script, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can approach things. Bob's asking about Porto, a goalkeeper making 8 saves, even if they concede 2 or 3. I mean, that can happen in any showdown with this type of matchup, and I think you can approach the slate this way, especially if the $2,000 can have some meaning attached to it. I think that's perfectly reasonable way to go. Ryan, one tournament question I had. We have Robert Lewandowski at 9,700. I feel like Bukayo Saka is gonna. I feel like the generic approach is maybe I'll play Bukayo Saka, and it's going to be very tough to afford Lewandowski. And then if people fade Bukayo Saka, they probably want to do a play whoever you want style lineup. Be strong in the flex, have a better goalkeeper, and sort of play a lot of Arsenal forwards who are 2,000 cheaper. That makes me think that Lewandowski, there's a chance he's a little bit too low owned. I don't know what the correct number is, but as a tournament play, if you intentionally play Lewandowski, I don't think that's such a bad idea. You might be compensated with too low of rostership.
No, I think it's a pretty good idea. I think he'll be pretty good leverage on this slate. Like you said, even if you fade Saka, you don't necessarily want to play Lewandowski. So yeah, I think that does keep his ownership down. I think that's a good play for tournaments for sure. I think an interesting move for tournaments is Saka and Lewandowski, because people just don't really do that. They used to kind of do that, but now the lobby just gets better and better. And we just saw last week, I forget who was it, just play Mbappe and Kane and win everything. Was that the slate? I don't know. It was too expensive for. Maybe they weren't on the same slate, but
it was. And it was brutal.
Yeah, that they both just how many times do we see Lewandowski and Saka most likely to score for their teams, and both of them put up 30 points. Not many lineups are going to have both of them together, I don't think. So I think that's interesting. But yeah, just in general, I think he'll probably be under-owned for the amount of times that he's optimal on this slate.
I think especially with the amount of viable like 5K-ish midfielders, I think you can consider that construction, and people are maybe going to stick a little bit more to cashy type builds. So I co-sign that take.
Yeah, Saka's just such a hard fade, right? I know Saka is such a hard fade, but I think there are scenarios where he's not optimal just based on pricing. And there are even scenarios where he finishes this game with just 10 points.
Yeah, I mean, if he finishes with 14 points, that's a pretty good game.
Right,
for
even
Saka,
that.
right?
Yeah.
It's not a guarantee. It's this. Look, we say this about Erling Haaland all the time. 10 10,500, I think there's enough forwards who can score 18 points and keep up. I mean, if Saka scores 20 as the highest scoring forward, but other people are scoring 18, you're kind of wasting money unless the rest of the slate just goes straight chalk. So it's just one thing worth considering. He does have to separate quite a bit at that price. Yeah. I saw that João Felix was somehow projected to start. I thought he was kind of I don't know, excommunicado, but I guess he's still there. I don't want to play him. He's only going to play 65 minutes. I'm only mentioning him, Ryan, because in case you need to correct that take. But
well, he'd probably be like the lowest, like the ultimate leverage. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to play him on like single entry stuff, but I think he's a good play in big GPPs. Barca have a ton of injuries. Ferran Torres is out, Pedri's out. Not sure about Rafinha. We'll have to see. I haven't heard today, but that might do something for the minutes on these guys. Like Barca, they don't really have anyone else to put in because they have some midfielders out too. They already have like Andreas Christensen in midfield, and Furman's going to have to come in. So especially like, yeah, I mean, they could sub one of these young kids in, Vitor Roque, but yeah, I don't know. Just in general, you could see the starters playing maybe a little bit longer.
Yeah. I think that's a good point. Yeah, it's worth taking a look at Barcelona's bench about 75 minutes before lock when lineups are coming out. Ryan, let's move on to midfield. If I missed something, you can just push back. But looking at cash games, Ilkay Gundogan at 8,100, he's been crushing lately, and he's been taking most of Barcelona's set pieces. It's a must-win spot for them. So in that matchup, again, I want to play Arsenal when I can, but I feel like Gundogan is a better quantity, compared to Martin Odegaard or compared to Trossard, especially if Trossard isn't taking set pieces. So I think he's going to be a piece that you want in cash games. What you do with that in tournaments is a little bit tricky. He has been crushing lately, but at 8,100, he is competing with a lot of good players that have excellent ceilings. Ryan, my big dilemma is what to do with Declan Rice in this spot. So Declan's been taking some set pieces. Saka's on the right. Declan's been taking these left-hand sided corners. Maybe that's changed a little bit. You're the Arsenal thought leader. And I like to have the set pieces. Heuristically, he's more of a midfielder, but I don't know. He's just a really good player. And in some scripts, he just feels like shooting from distance. Like I don't know, he's got like the Rodri shooting in him, but I think he's a little bit more predictable of a floor than Rodri. So, I mean, what do you do with Declan Rice in this spot? It's kind of tough.
I can tell people the answer, I think. If we get the lineup we saw last time with Jorginho in there, over the weekend with Jorginho in there and no Gabriel Jesus, Rice is a lock. Best play on the slate, maybe even in before Saka. He's going to take all the left-sided corners, and he's going to play more attacking in that lineup. He's been more attacking the last 2 or 3 times they've played with Jorginho in. He's got freedom to get forward. And they might have a ton of set pieces in this spot if they don't get early goals. It's been one of their most reliable ways of scoring this year. Sometimes you watch Arsenal when they're struggling and you think the only way they're going to score is from a set piece. They lead the league in set piece goals this season. And Rice, he's just been great. He scored massive goals. He's just maybe been Arsenal's best player this season, which is crazy to say with Odegaard and Saka. I mean, yeah, it's not the Declan Rice really that we're used to. He's a must play if that's the lineup we get. If it's the other lineup with like, what would it be? I don't know, no Jorginho and he's deeper. I still don't. You can't fade for cash games. You can't not splitting half the corner kicks. At least I don't think you can.
Yeah, it offers a lot of salary relief, and I don't know. For me, just to push back slightly, I have Declan Rice's game logs, and he played well against Brentford over the weekend. He scored a goal. That's 18 fantasy points, though. So you're looking at 8 floor points. That's pretty good for 6.2K. I mean, Arsenal absolutely windmill dunked on Sheffield, but I feel like I don't think Porto is quite Porto's definitely better than Sheffield United. Arsenal will possess the ball most of the time, but I feel like that's a little bit outlier. I feel like in tournaments, at least, so cash game's okay. If you have the guy with the 10-point floor, I see the argument. But I'm still a little hesitant because, you have maybe the 8K guys who could go off. Maybe you don't need to spend up at 2 defenders, or maybe you don't need the flex play. Maybe you can just punt a little bit more. Trossard's someone who has a little bit more ceiling. And on a 2-game slate, I often think about, a little bit of bailout equity. Trossard also has a decent floor, especially if he's going to be operating from the wing and if there's going to be a little bit more crossing. I don't know. Those are the things I'm weighing. It doesn't seem clear cut to me, but
No.
it's a little bit tricky.
Yeah, for tournaments, I think you're right. Same thing you said about Gundogan for the same reason. There's just a lot of guys on this slate who probably hit ceilings more often or score goals more often than Gundogan and Rice. So yeah, I think it makes sense to, if you want to fade one of them in tournaments. Yeah, especially for leverage, I think they'll be popular. But just in general, I mean, I'll ask you, Jack, but doesn't Declan have the third highest floor on the slate? I mean, not even talking about price, just raw points. That would be my guess. I could be wrong, but so yeah, just for cash games, I don't know. I would play him.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, just taking a quick look. Okay, you got Saka.
I guess it's tough because there's a small sample from like what Declan's been doing recently. It's kind of a small sample, but
it's a ball no intake. I mean, I often say that cheekily, but if he's been playing in a more advanced role, I took a look at his SofaScore heat map. I mean, it looked like a little bit more like Martin Odegaard's than like a usual, like what you would expect from a Declan Rice. So there's some merit there. I mean,
yeah, he's noticeably been forward more and in the box more, and I think that continues here.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably going to be one of the more important decisions overall. Ryan, I pulled up Furman over here. He's a player I don't know too much about. I mean, just a young midfielder. His per 90 stats look quite good. I remember when he starting, I think he took a few set pieces and they were looking quite extra. They were looking quite extra good. At 6,100, I don't know. I was going to ask you if that's a good pivot off of Declan Rice at the same price range, but it's a sub risk.
Yeah, like you said it, the same thing that I thought at first, the minutes. If you somehow got 90 minutes from him, yeah, he'd be a really good play. But since you likely won't, makes it tough. But he does have attacking chops. And especially, with Christensen in there, it's basically like they're playing 3 center backs. Yeah, he does create chances and shoot. Like you said, his per 90 stats look pretty good. If you did get 90 minutes, and I guess you might with all the injuries. I'm probably not, but yeah, it's thin, Jack, but he does have goal and assist upside, and there's outcomes where Declan just scores 8 points, plenty of those outcomes. So yeah, I think it's okay.
Yeah, all right. I love being agreed with. Sounds great. I want to look down the range at midfield at the cheaper options. There's a big gulf in price from like 4,000 all the way up to 6,000. I don't see anyone too tempting in that range, or there might not even be really anyone who starts in that range. 2 names who stuck out at below 4,000. I mean, Jorginho's always an option. I'm not sure if he takes a penalty over Saka in this lineup, but I don't know. I'll let you comment on that. And then I DM'd you and Adam before the ghost of Hamid Traore, who I think I'm going to say Adam called a Bournemouth's Kevin De Bruyne, is projected to start for Napoli at 3,800. Seems like a perfectly reasonable tournament to punt to me. I mean, Hamid Traore is one of these guys with great floor. Again, another sub-risk play. I'd probably rather play him than Jorginho in tournaments. But I don't know, Ryan, do you have any takes on the cheaper midfielders? A lot of it kind of seems like trap plays.
Yeah. Seem like trap plays, not a lot there. Been wondering about Jorginho and Pens for a while now. Arsenal haven't had one in a while when Jorginho's been on the pitch, and we know he's something of a specialist. So I'm not sure what happened. I'm not sure what will happen in this spot. It's a little bit different than just a normal Premier League game on the weekend. To be honest, it might be, who's ever got the biggest balls when that moment comes up. And I would think Saka would step up and take it, but you got Captain Odegaard there too, who's taken them as well. You never really know it with Arsenal. But yeah, like Jorginho just, yeah, no, like he doesn't really do much outside of that, I guess. I was going to say the only argument is, that Arsenal need to push, but what does that result in? Maybe an extra shot assisted or two. Yeah. Chance created or two. Yeah, I agree with you. I think Traore probably has a little bit more upside if that game gets back and forth. But yeah, this is one of the things I was looking at. Like, can I play one of these guys in the flex? And is that gonna be how I lose though? Basically, like, is that the wrong move? Like you said, like I was looking at some lineups or one lineup specifically that I had even less than that. Needed like Labatka or a Porto guy, and I don't know. That might be the wrong play on this slate.
Yeah, that'll be a little bit tough, I think. I don't know. I'm most interested in taking rips on Traore just because he's shown a good floor in the Premier League before. It looks like his per 90 stats are good. I don't know. Maybe it works out, but I could certainly see it go south. I mean, maybe you just want to get on a more balanced construction.
Yeah, maybe Zambo Anguissa is actually the best.
Was that a Mo Hendy play? Did he like Anguissa that one time?
He gave
a great ball no intake.
Yeah, and I think it's right. He got the assist against Barca even last game. He's always going to play 90 minutes. I don't mind that.
Yeah. Before we get into defender, if I had to vote for someone to take the Arsenal penalty if they need it, give me Captain Martin Odegaard. I just like Martin Odegaard. I mean, how can you not like the guy? I think he's a terrific player too.
I love Martin Odegaard. He won me the king of the pitch at 3%. I mean, I'm always going to love Martin. I'd even love him without that. But yeah, you're right.
3%.
Just reminded me, I saw Odegaard, Trossard, and Havertz went on vacation together last week, brought the wives along, put some nice pictures up on Instagram. I think it was very, this Arsenal team, they're heading in the right direction. Stuff you love to see. File that under stuff you love to see, Jack. Gives me a good feeling about this game.
We have a big spouses being friends narrative. We love to see that. Good vibes in the Arsenal camp. That is always good to see. You like it when everyone is all friendly with each other. Let's move on to the defender position. Looking up, the two names that stuck out to me, we have Gio Di Lorenzo at 4,800, but for only 700 more, you can get the services of the ever frustrating João Cancelo. Cancelo's been a little bit more consistent lately, usually racking up at least 7 floor points per his game logs. I think he's reached 10 fantasy points in the previous 2 matches. In a game where Barcelona have to attack, João Cancelo is someone with a lot of upside, and never surprised if he scores a screamer. But I don't know, Ryan. I'm a little bit worried. I think he's the move in cash games, but I've played João Cancelo at this price in cash before, and we see how it goes wrong. And it's not like an 80% thing that it goes right. So it's a little bit tough if you want to invest that salary there, especially when there's cheap center backs to play. You could just play cheap Arsenal center backs who might have a floor, might take a shot or two. I'm not considering Cancelo a lock, though I want to play him. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's one of the questions of the slate. It's like the toughest question for me, at least, because I was getting the lineups that I liked without him, but you're really worried about fading him, especially on this slate when he might clearly be the best defender, but also he's very frustrating, like you said. So sometimes these Arsenal center backs can get pretty close to him. And it kind of depends, I guess, what script that Barca game takes on. But yeah, I think you're going to want to play him in cash games. He's going to be popular. And there is that thing where, when you're clearly the best defender on the slate, like oftentimes that makes you one of the best plays for DFS too. If things just go somewhat normally and Cancelo's the only defender to put up double digits, which probably happens often enough. Yeah, it's a tough question though, because those Arsenal center backs can get close. I don't know. Yeah, I wish I had the answer.
And you did mention, Ryan, like I don't think this is a silly thing. I think with Declan Rice taking corner kicks, I think this shows Arsenal's investing a little bit more in set pieces. I read net gains, this is me pulling out a nugget. Set pieces are the sharp place to find goals. Like it's plus EV to focus on those spots because you can make good routines. And I've seen Arsenal have some very good corner kick routines when I've seen them. So that makes me think the center backs are even better plays. Gabriel, only 3,100. He's a target man on some of these set pieces. So maybe he's better option than Saliba, who's somehow more expensive. But, when you're looking for guys like that, I don't know. It just seems like a good place to look. We have Jakob KDB Weor, as I called him in the Discord recently, who just keeps on assisting all the time at 3,300. Adam mentioned he might be a sub risk if Zinchenko is back, but right now we have him projected to start. I don't know. With so many cheap, big body Arsenal guys, I wouldn't mind. There's a lot of merit and a lot of chance that they get a flick on assist, they get a goal. There's ceiling there too. It's not like you're playing a
totally. I mean, totally. Arsenal have maybe the most famous set piece coach in the world. I've heard about him a bunch of times already this season. Nicolas Jover, Arteta. He was the set piece coach at Man City, and Arteta took him with him over to Arsenal. And yeah, Declan Rice has jumped on corners because they figured out that was better. There's a ton of height in the Arsenal team. We said that they lead the Premier League in set piece goals. Yeah, Gabriel's been scoring goals. Could have scored more. Saliba too. Yeah, they're all too cheap, Jack. So it makes all three of them are too cheap. I worry a little bit about Kiwior as a sub risk. With Zinchenko back, Kiwior played like 70 some minutes over the weekend. I think if Arsenal were winning like 2-0, he'll probably stay on. But if not, Zinchenko will come on to help the attack. Yeah, like 2K less than Cancelo is pretty intriguing.
Yeah.
Ben White. I skipped over Ben White though. You have anything to say about Ben White?
Please don't say anything bad about him. Ben White,
no,
I think you're a
definitely
great player.
Not.
I love your haircut. I love the blonde hair dye. You're not a fake right back. You're a real marauding right back. Great attacker. I hope you do great.
2 big assists over the weekend. After a goal against Sheffield the week before that. But yeah, my friend who's an Arsenal fan always talks about how Ben White always makes the overlapping run and Saka just never gives it to him. Must be the most frustrating thing ever. You watch and it just happens over and over and over again. Finally gave it to him twice this weekend, and Ben White got assists on both of them. He's been having a few more crosses recently, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's a decent tournament play. You could see him beating Cancelo. Anyway. Just a little story. I don't think they're going to use the overlap any more frequently. When you get a guy like Saka with the ball there, you don't really want him to get rid of the ball. Saka's always trying to cut in on his left and get shots off and do things. So Ben White just sort of gets left out in the cold, running his ass off up and down the sideline. But 2 assists over the weekend.
Yeah. Well, we talked about early on the show how you might want to get gross, so probably be low owned. I don't think a lot of people are going to be scrambling to play Ben White at 4,600, even if people are watching game logs. So I guess it has that sort of merit. But I don't know, Ryan. I agree with you. If Bukayo Saka's on the wing, I do not want him, laying the ball off.
Right.
Ben White to whip in crosses. We have a $2,800 Pepe in there who's going to be patrolling those headers, who has to be like 42 at this point, which is ridiculous. If you want to win the $44 scissor kick, though, I mean, talk about great salary relief. 41 years old. My God. How is he still playing? That's just incredible. But
it is incredible.
Keeps on giving.
I guess it's something like that might be okay to fill the third team requirement. I feel like that'd be really the reason to do it, though.
Yeah.
I guess. I don't know. Maybe are you going to punt twice? Maybe you can do something. You punt to defender and punt keeper as well, and jam the expense. Yeah, I think that could work. I guess.
Yeah, I think it would be fine if you had to play.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
That's the other thing, though. Maybe I should ask you. I was making other lineups I liked where it had like 2,900 left or 2,800 left for second defender. But I just would like refuse to click it because you're 200 away from Gabriel. Like I've already filled the third team, but the lineup I want only has like 20. Then I think to myself, is it really is Gabriel? Is it worth it that much to prioritize a center back? Like get rid of this lineup you really like, just to play like Gabriel over a Pepe or a Juan Jesus? Another tough question, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Without knowing the lineups, I can't say more, but that's something that I would feel like really frustrated about, but it's probably fine. I mean, Gabriel, a lot of times he's just scoring 4 or 5 points. So if that just unlocks the whatever unique combinations of players that you want, and that's really the only way to do it, I think it's fine for that reason alone. And just hoping that
there is some scenarios. Yeah, there is some scenarios like that, Jack. Like actually 2 of them, like I mentioned, it's a lineup I really liked. And it had like 3,700 left at flex. If it had 38 or 39, I'll play it all day with Traore or Anguissa. But it only had 37, so it's like, I don't think so now. But like, is that decision really that important? And then the same thing at defender. I got to get Gabriel in there, but is it really that important? I don't know. Those are the tough questions.
Yeah, I mean, I would just say it depends on how rare the combination of players you're packing is. I think that's one way. If you're playing chalk, right, and then you're just going to play like a bad play in there, I don't know. It feels like maybe you scrap that lineup. But if you're not playing chalk, then you can get away with it.
Right.
Oh, any other defender takes? I don't really have anything. I mean, Gio Di Lorenzo is always an enticing play if that game's back and forth at 4,800. But I guess not a priority in the spots. Just one name I thought I'd throw out there.
Yeah, he'd be the one. Di Lorenzo. I think you would want him instead of Cancelo, and maybe with a Barca player that gets an early goal or something.
Yeah, seems reasonable.
But yeah, he'll probably go overlooked on this slate, and just if you can somehow find the defender, if you can somehow find the highest scoring defender, it's going to go a long way on this slate.
Yeah.
But then the flip side is Cancelo and Di Lorenzo can both bust, and then you're going to want the cheap center backs. So
yeah, then you're going to be playing with 3,000 less salary with some guys who have ceilings that you want to play for. So they definitely have to do well to make it worthwhile in the spot.
Right.
All right, let's bring it around to goalkeeper. On the cheat sheet, we now have a nice little goalkeeper tab, which is helpful, just so you can see the prices. One-stop shop as usual, rotowire.com/soccer trial if you are interested. 2-day free trial. So if you're not a subscriber already, you can enjoy our UCL content and then hopefully become a full subscriber. I think we provide a lot of great value, a lot of insights in the pods, and then a lot of awesome tools, DFS trends, yada, yada, yada. Be happy to talk about it more. You can hop in Discord or DM me. But let's talk about goalie. We've already talked quite a bit about goalie, though, so I don't think we have to dwell too much. David Raya seems great, 5,800, 53% to keep it clean sheets. He also might end the game with 8 accurate passes. So you have that going for you. Ter Stegen at 5,400. I don't think people are going to be scrambling to play him because that game has the 3 implied goal total. But that's quite interesting as well. I think Ter Stegen is like maybe perhaps an ownership play. I don't know. There's 4 goalkeepers. There's probably no ownership plays here. If I have to play Diogo Costa and hope that, the Bob Naughton comment right here, that Arsenal score 3 goals, but he makes 8 saves, I do that in showdown. So I'd be happy to do that in a 2-game slate if it gets me the combinations I want. I'm probably just going to be a big old idiot and play Alex Merritt and somehow convince myself that Napoli can keep a clean sheet. Napoli's my preferred angle here. Basil Naby talked about how he wants to play goalkeepers that he thinks have a chance to win when he came on the show. And this was for like 6-game Champions League stuff. I think Alex Merritt can win. And if you're thinking about $400 difference between Alex Merritt and Diogo Costa, I would like to find that $400. So that's my one goalkeeper take. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, I think I do agree with that take. That's normally the strategy that I go with, especially on bigger slates for sure. Like I want my keeper to be able to win. Here, just in years past on 2 game slates, I would try to play Raya or make Raya a priority, or at least make the expensive keeper a priority. I think to my detriment a lot of times, especially on these second leg slates where you feel like these cheap guys have maybe more save upside, or at least, or maybe more of a save floor even than usual. Uh, I just I think the cheap guys. I like the cheap guys. I guess like sort of what we said earlier at the start. Like, can they get you a bunch of saves and at least get close to Raya? That might be enough even for tournaments. I don't know, Jack. I don't know. Like I like what you said about Ter Stegen, especially for tournaments. Um, but I don't know. Like, yeah, any of these keepers could be optimal. Like, I guess like, is 12 points from Raya be enough? If Merritt or Costa scored like 8, I don't know, maybe.
It depends. It's one of these things. It depends if the chalk absolutely nukes, and you just need like a certain combination of players at whatever
Right.
salary.
I guess, is it worth does it mean anything that Costa had 0 saves against Arsenal last time out?
No,
Arsenal, no shots on target.
I don't think that means anything. Maybe if you take the angle that Porto play very negative and the ball's not in play very much, I think that's symptomatic of that. But I think Arsenal, I think you can take kind of a sort of stupid point of view to this, Ryan. So like, if there's going to be a lot of shots, that means they're more likely to be on target. And the only way to get saves is to have shots on target and just hope that you run good. When I wrote the goalkeeper article, it's on the site. You can click my name, or you can again DM me and I can send it to you. You said, okay, if you tell me that David Raya scores 12 points, is that enough? I'm just going to go ahead and say no. If I'm assuming game scripts where Raya scores 12 points, I think 25% of the time goalkeepers of Alex Merritt's profile, so slight, away dogs basically, their top 25th percentile outcome. So 1 out of 4 times they're scoring 12 or more fantasy points. So I'll just take that, and I'll take the 1,600 or whatever dollars if that means something.
One out of 4 times Merritt scores 12, huh?
Well, that's goalkeepers in this profile, like about 25% to win on the road. I crunched the numbers, and the Q1, the first quartile, top 25th percentile is 12 points. It's pretty flat across the board. Everything steadily goes up with win odds, but ceiling is still always there. So I don't know. It's not a 100% Merritt take, but I want to build some Merritt lineups because I think he has some routes to get there.
Yeah, I like the cheap keepers in this spot. I guess I've the more
I agree with you.
Just yeah, I didn't used to always be that way. I don't know how to say it, but like, you want the guys that can score points. Like, it feels like the cheap guys can score points. Like, how is Raya can't really score without only a win and a clean sheet.
Yeah. Talk about outs, right? Merritt has outs if he gets a win. I mean, it's not the most likely outcome. I recognize this. He has save outs if it's just under siege. If he's saving, any goalkeeper has that. And he's going to be facing shots. Right. And he has win outs. I mean, 15% for a clean sheet. Okay, that's not great, right? But you're talking 1 in 7. When you put it that way, I don't know. It's not crazy, especially if Raya doesn't absolutely nuke the slate. But I don't know, maybe Ter Stegen has the profile of someone who can face a lot of Napoli pressure and get a lot of saves. I think that's an interesting angle to look at well. Ryan, that's like 5 minutes on goalkeeper. Play whoever you want, I think. A lot of agonizing, but it's the second leg. There's some interesting angles at least. Ozzy in the chat, he's saying, let's hope we don't get a repeat of the Copenhagen goalkeeper last week versus Man City. Yeah, you roll those dice. That can happen. But, when it comes to cheap goalkeeper, the process. Just keep on mailing it in, and eventually it has to work out. Right, I think it was pretty I think we covered everything. A slower show, but I don't mind. I think it was good to go through everything slowly and kind of understand a lot of the angles. If you've been sticking around with us, thank you very much. The StreamYard says 500 viewers, but somehow I think Twitter bots, Elon's Twitter might be wreaking havoc on us. But thank you. I'll just pretend anyway. I'll let it stroke my ego. Thank you to the 500 people who are tuning live right now. Ryan, you got any final words for the people?
Oh, no, just go Arsenal. It's going to be a heck of a sweat. Going to be nervous. I mean, I care more about much more. I will gladly lose everything in DFS if Arsenal can advance. That's how much I care about this one. As an Arsenal fan, talking to my friends that are too, like everyone's saying the same thing. Like it's been a while since we've cared or been up for a match like as much as this one. Like you actually worried about. So it's nice at least to have Arsenal good again. So hopefully they win. Going to be depressed if they lose.
Well, Ryan, you're a better man than me because if you told me, Jack, I'll give you $50 or Tottenham loses this weekend, I say, give me the $50 so I can go to Chili's later.
Yeah, that's the thing. Normally I would agree with you, even about Arsenal. Like if they have to lose this weekend, but I'm going to win in DFS, okay, that's fine. But for this one, no, this is a must win. This is a massive game.
Yeah. Well, I certainly hope Arsenal lose. That would be pretty funny to me, and it would certainly be a shame if they blew this three-way league title race. That's coming from your resident hater right here. Thank you all, everyone, for joining. This was a lot of fun, and we will see you tomorrow when we talk about whoever the heck plays then. But good luck, everyone.
Thanks, Jack. Good luck, everybody.